Hi, Matthew Whyatt here from Tech Talk. I'm excited to be on the Online Prosperity Show with Prosper this week. This week, I'll be talking about sales, marketing, technology, Bali, maybe a rickshaw here or there, but all of it's going to come together to hopefully provide you some value. My goal is to help my clients sell more to the right people and hopefully get something valuable out of the podcast. See you soon.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we have a special guest joining us for the second time. Now, Matthew, how have you been, my man?
I've been excellent, thank you, Prosper. How have you been?
Well, I don't know. We were just trying to calculate. It's been 5 years, hasn't it been?
I think so, yeah. It's been a while.
Well, you know what they say, time flies when you're actually having fun. For those that are meeting Matthew Whyatt for the very first time, he's the founder and chief sales strategist at Tech Talk Systems. Now, you might know Matthew as, the guy who actually turned his first software business into $100 million powerhouse by the age of 22. And I know that is a big deal, right? But that success wasn't, just about flashy tech or things of that nature. If you would check in the show notes, I'm going to put a link to the previous video that we did previously. That success was actually fueled by his precision selling strategies, which he has since refined into a first end-to-end growth system for software and technology companies. And we're going to be talking a lot about all of that and more. And, some of the things that you might not know about Matthew, he's actually been a rickshaw driver over the Himalayas mountains. And yes, you heard that right. And after running international companies, he's now on a mission to actually help executive tech companies scale fast, all while keeping their competitive razor edge, ahead of the competition. And trust me, if you're somebody who's leaving money on the table in your business, Matthew is the guy who knows exactly how to stop that from happening. So Matthew, I could go on and talk about things that I'm not even experienced to talk about, even though I've known you for all this while. Tell us, what have you been up to?
What an amazing intro. I really appreciate that. Hopefully we can just clip that piece and I can just send that to all of my clients all the time. That's you've done a beautiful job there, Prosper. You should do an online TV show. You're very good at it. Well, mate, so what's been going on in the last couple of years? So obviously COVID happened, and then over that time, what I wanted to do was bring in-house a lot of the capability that I've got in relation to strategy and sales, and then bolt on the marketing. And specifically, we're focused on software and SaaS businesses. We really want to help those people grow and bring together as you said, the precision, culmination of sales and marketing strategy brought together. Because if your sales and marketing aren't doing equal amounts of work, you're going to find imbalance in the process. And if you've got imbalance, then you're going to be paying too much. And whether it's paying too much to salespeople who don't really have the marketing support, so they've got to go out there and generate their own activity, where you're going to be paying them a lot of money, or you're going to be paying a lot of money to the marketing and if your sales are weak, you're going to find that the marketing's got to do all the heavy lifting there. So having them in perfect balance and operating as a cohesive team is really the key that I've found when working with existing software and technology SaaS types of businesses to get that right. I mean, a lot of founders don't really want to be the sales guy or girl, but through the process we take them through, we're able to help them understand that sales shouldn't be a dirty word. When you're out there, and I've done keynote speeches, I've said, so what's the first word that comes to your mind when you think sales? And a lot of people don't associate positive things with sales. And what I try to help my clients understand is actually professional is the first word that should be thought of. You've got to think of a high quality salesperson is just as valuable as your highest priced engineer or your highest priced project manager. You've got to be able to have cohesive capability across the organization to deliver a great product, and sales and marketing really is the first thing that goes out there into the world. So anyway, enough of that sort of my spiel there, but it's been 5 years since we spoke. Lots has happened, a few different iterations of the business, but really it's been an interesting couple of years.
Absolutely, and thank you so much. You see, when people are maybe founding a company or bringing an idea to life, half of the times they are looking at the idea and saying, "Why aren't people buying into this?" Because they already
Yep.
assume, that whatever life-changing thing they're coming up with, everybody's just gonna triple, stumble, and fall, and actually start purchasing that. But you, like you said, started doing this, recently, but this has been something you've been working on for quite a while. What got you into the world of technology and sales at a tender age of 22, from what I've discovered?
Well, the thing is, my first couple of roles were generally in sales. So at 17, I was this is going to sound hilarious, like it's some 1950s thing, but I was literally selling vacuum cleaners door to door. I was literally selling vacuum cleaners door to door at the age of 17, and so I realized the value because they were bringing in 17-year-olds who knew nothing. I just finished school. I knew nothing about anything, and I was brought in, given a script, given training, and then with enough script and enough training, enough backup support, you could actually sell almost anything. Literally, vacuum cleaners door to door. So I realised, and I went over to Perth to become a roof plumber because my mum said get a haircut and a real job. After a short stint of trying to be a nightclub DJ, which was also interesting. But through that time, mate, it was really, I just found a real passion for technology. I found a passion. This is in the late 90s. That might be demonstrating my sincere age, my significant age. But in 1999, when we started the tech business, really it was an opportunity. A friend of mine phoned. He knew that I was a great salesperson. He knew that I could relate to team members. He had some technology. We partnered on that 50-50, and the rest was history after that. So, and I've gone away from, when I sold off my businesses, took a year off, lived in Bali, really had a long thought about what I was going to do, came back and just found I tried a bunch of different industries, but really I kept swinging back to technology. I just really loved that type of business. I understood it. I understood that it could be really exponential in its growth if it was done well. So it's always been there. It's always been baked deep.
Absolutely, and congratulations. Is this the same business that you partnered with a friend and you turned this into $100 million enterprise, right?
Well, yeah, so we'd sold $100 million worth of product and services over the years. We grew that business from a couple of us on a balcony selling software over the phone to, we had about 30 staff in Melbourne. We had people in Sydney. We were running various organizations. But, it's all well and good to say I had 70 staff and doing, quite high numbers. But really, I was just the sales and marketing guy. I knew how to be the lead singer of the band, but all the other logistics of managing finance and team and training and software development and HR and all that type of stuff, that was really my wife's job and the team that worked for her. So really, at the end of the day, I only really ever managed about 10 people who were all the sales people and the marketing people. Everybody else was managed by my very, very capable wife, who's, we've been together since I was 21. She was 21, and so yeah, we're still pumping along.
Absolutely, and congratulations. I mean, not a lot of people can say that after, having worked together even and, still be together. Is that the reason why you went on and took a year away from just about everything in Bali? Because, the excitement was just too much.
Well, no, we sold off the business, right? So we thought, well, let's just take some time. And if there was ever going to be a time, my two boys were in school. One was in year one, one was in pre-prep, so there's 2 years between them. We thought, well, if there's ever going to be a time when we could live overseas and try that out, and now is the time. So we did. We pulled them out of school. They went into school over in Bali, and that was a bit of fun. But after about 10 months, there's only so much Bali we could sort of take. And so we brought them back here, and I was invited to work with the company to fix up their sales room. I flew back and just found that, it was just easier to do business. And I got really excited to grow another organization after that. And so Terry and I went back into business together. Well, not that we ever weren't in business together, but really we've always worked, together on all of the current all the businesses that we've had over the years, from real estate to importing health products to technology and software services, all those sort of things. We've always run our businesses together. So it was just time to come back and do it all again.
But Matthew, if somebody's listening to this and they're like, you had an opportunity to live in Bali and you still didn't want to be there after a certain amount of time, because so many people just work for having an endless holiday or just traveling and things of that nature. But there's only so much that you can speak to the monkeys in Ubud and have logical conversations with them. What did this chapter in your life sort of help you to now shape the current approach you have in sales?
Well, Prosper, probably for the people who are out there trying to hustle and grow and run their business and think about their they think that having a thing will provide them the satisfaction and fulfillment that they actually are desiring. So I had a certain amount of wealth that I thought was going to solve all my problems. And I got there and go, well, I woke up that next morning and I was the same person, the same, insecurities or what do they call it? Imposter syndrome now. It's what it's called, but, just sort of just a doubt. So I thought, and so what happened is that having that money and that size business didn't actually solve the problem. And so, after I sold the business off, I thought, well, maybe retiring, maybe going to Bali, and that'll be fun. That's what we need to do. We need to retire. We need to hang out, go surf, learn to surf, and take the relaxed life. And that didn't solve the problem. So really, so I've done a bit of work on myself personally to figure out what actually is the point of work. Because at 22, the point of work was to get rich and drive an Italian sports car. So I did that, and that wasn't the point of it. So really, it's interesting, if we're sort of going down a different path here today, talking to other business owners who are sort of striving, find out what your actual motivation is. And it might take some time and it might take till you're in your 40s to figure it out, like it did for me. But really, it's about, for me, it's the inspired pursuit of something meaningful. I think I read that somewhere, or I've smashed it together from things that I've heard or read over the years. But it's just I'm excited to be here, showing up, doing, solving problems for entrepreneurs, and I get personal satisfaction out of helping my clients win, but also growing my own business. This is not an altruistic expert, job. This is a profit-making organization. I'm here to make money, but I'm only going to succeed if my clients make money, and that's the real key here. So, so I think the lesson there might be, or the thought, the takeaway for a business audience would be to think about, what is the deep down thing? Are you trying to, like I was, make up for something by becoming wealthy and driving the car and having the boat and living on the water, all those types of things that didn't actually solve the problem? And so think a bit more deeply about what's important to you, and then that will probably help you obtain that faster with maybe a fewer detours or international travel or selling off your house and to invest all in one big software program.
Absolutely. But I quite like how you're putting all those things in perspective, because so many people that haven't quite arrived at that conclusion are just really working, thinking, one day when I'm now sitting on a beach sipping pina coladas, maybe things are going to be well. But it is in the actual doing of the work in order to help others do and have a happier existence that actually gives us the satisfaction that we yearn for. And congratulations for having taken that. I mean, it's a good thing you did it with money. Some people would have done it without the money to actually be able to learn that lesson. So cool stuff. And when you came back, you obviously, like you said, you went on a journey, right? And some of the selling that you are now doing obviously is buyer-centric selling. You're no longer kicking people's doors and hoping that they will look at the vacuum cleaner that you're selling. Can you explain to us what that actually means and why it's crucial in today's market?
Yeah, so actually, so buyer-centric selling is really something taught by Bob-Urachuk, and there's a quick story. Maybe I said this in the last podcast, I'm not sure, but because I'll tell it again anyway. So when I got back from Bali, I was doing some just general contracting and general going into businesses and helping them fix their sales team. And I thought, well, I want to be a speaker. I want to be a public speaker. I want to get out there and do keynotes. And so I went through I Googled top sales trainers, top salespeople in the world, and I went down the list and went, I think I might have met this guy at one stage. His name was Bob-Urachuk, and he was listener number 8. And I thought, oh, this is cool. And so I messaged him. I just cold DM'd him. I think not on an email, but it might have been on LinkedIn or something, and said, "Hey, Bob, I'm doing a podcast on sales. Would you like? I'd love to interview you." And he responded and said, "Great." And so, of course, then I had to figure out how to do a podcast. This is about 7 or 8 years ago. So it was Skype, I think it was, maybe longer, 9, 10 years ago. Anyway, and so I interviewed him, and the conversation just kept going on, and we switched off the recording and just kept having a conversation. He was going to be my first episode because I wanted to, because somebody, get a big fish from a first episode. I never actually launched the podcast because at the end of that, I said, because he was looking to retire. He was looking to, and I said, well, I've got a great idea. You should pay me $10,000 a month and I'll be the CEO of Velocity Selling. He said, Matthew, that's a great deal, but I'm not going to pay you anything. And I said, done. So I became CEO of Velocity Selling for zero money, and picked it up and ran with it for a couple of years. And we launched in LA, and we did a bunch of stuff. But really, it all had, because I knew the value of that mentorship. I knew the value of being able to stand right next to one of the world's greatest salespeople and keynote speakers. This is the guy that would get paid, flown to whatever country it was and paid $25,000 for a 45-minute speech. So, he's pretty important person in the world of sales. And he came up with, so that was a long answer to a short question, which was buyer-centric selling. And he really had thought about that buyer-centric selling in his book, Velocity Selling. And really it's about putting yourself in the position of the buyer and what do they think about. And so when I'm talking to my customers about sales and marketing, I'm talking to my customers about how they are able to sell. It's not just targeting as in, size of business, name, rank, and serial number. So location, size, type of company. What we're really talking about here is also behavior and vision and values. And so if we can align ourselves with the customer, their behavior, vision, and values, that's psychographic. So we talk about demographics in marketing, and all about that. Talk about demographics, but we also talk in our business about psychographics. And then if you want to go one more layer deeper, we talk about technographics, is what other technology do they have, but that's sort of getting into another area. The psychographic part of it is how do they behave, and then providing sales material, sales scripting, sales conversation around those behaviors, and having clients come and in those conversations speak to them and position your brand as an aspirational brand, as you want to be part of my clients. So for example, I might say, my best fit customers are businesses have already got a great product, they know how to deliver it, and now it's time to put the foot down on the accelerator of the front end of the business. My best customers really solve a genuine need and they're passionate about the software. And now it's time to sell more to the right people. And so when you think about that, what that says is I'm positioning potentially you as a new customer, not as, hey, we will take your money and do sales and marketing for you, but I'm telling you about my best customers. So it feels like a third-party review. And I'm also giving them the aspiration to have a great product. They know how to deliver it. They found a great product market fit. So really what I'm trying to say to a client is, this is who I work best with. Do you want to be that type of person? And so just psychologically, we just switch this sale bit from we've got a thing to sell you is you can join our club if you're this type of person. And so that's what we think about with buyer-centric selling. It also slightly changes the dynamic of, I won't say power dynamic, because I don't think it's a power struggle, but the power dynamic is you've got a great value piece. That person's got a great value piece. You'll come together to create greater levels of value. Whereas typical salespeople in the old days would say, kick the door and have I got a great deal for you, and then just talk at the person. And so many businesses over the course of the last 20 years, so many people have heard that sales pitch. They find themselves backed into the corner of a yes answer. Oh, you respect your clients, don't you? Like that sort of aggressive yes answer question makes the person listening have to say yes. So they're being backed into a sale, or I want a customer to walk forward into the sale psychologically. And what happens if you set the client up successfully by giving them something to aspire to, if they want to be part of that, then throughout the operations process, because not just typically today, a sale just doesn't happen and you never talk to the customer again. You're not selling chewing gum. What we're selling is services that go on for a long time. So we need to be able to continually reinforce the value and the standard that we set. We continually go ahead and reinforce how we want to work together. So buyer-centric selling actually thinks about the entire process. So, for example, if a client says, do you use, I'll use an example out of tech world, do you use Azure, which is Microsoft's cloud storage, or Google cloud storage? Well, the answer is not relevant unless it's relevant to the client. So rather than saying we use Google or we use Azure or AWS, the answer is the best way to go is an answer is saying, well, we've got a number of ways of solving for cloud storage. Do you have a particular preference? And in doing that, you're able to speak with the customer more. They're able to express their ideas more. And what happens is then that client is heard. They feel heard. So when you come to say, hey, whilst you've got a preference for Google, we found that Azure is more safe because of data sovereignty in Australia, or whatever the answer is, that you're going to be more of a trusted partner than just a salesperson trying to flog Azure rather than Google. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What I really like about that is the positioning aspect, because when you let the customer have to maybe self-select or self-check out, to say, yes, can you not see I'm here? I do fit the description of what you're looking for, but it, like you say, it takes that, burden on the salesperson to try and prove that they're a worthy partner to the customer, which is what a lot of customers come to the table thinking. They're like, yeah, now sell me what you're thinking. No, you're literally
what do you got?
Yeah. No, you're literally saying, okay, Mr. Customer, thank you so much for making the time, but are you worth my time, my expertise, and everything else I'm bringing to the table? And I feel like that's where a lot of businesses actually leave money on the table, because they now spend time, doing the whole look at us, this is what we can do, and they're not bringing the customer into the conversation and speaking at the level that the customer wants to be spoken to. And I think that actually changes the game a lot for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And it's a complete ecosystem of content that you put out. So I have the sniff test of content to go, well, it's all well and good. Like if you're, and I don't deal with any florists, but this is an example. So if your florist shop puts out a photo of flowers and go, it's a nice day to buy flowers. Well, all that post does is serve the business. And so the sniff test I give the content that I put out, and certainly I'm sure you say this type of thing to your clients all the time as well, Prosper, is the product, the quality of the content needs to be so high that you've got to want to, that your perfect client who's going to read it and go, or interact with it or watch the video, whatever it is, and go, they should be motivated to send it to somebody else that's so good. So if you can give your content that sniff test, if you care enough about the client to actually go, this is something that I need to share with my business partner, not because I want you to buy something from Prosper, but it's actually good because it's good to know, and it's high quality information. That's when you've actually got something useful. That's when you see virality occur. Because I was having a conversation with a chap the other day. He talked about each business is a different business model, and I sort of challenged him on that. I said, well, there's only a certain number of business models. He said, yes, but inside that organization, you've got to think about where's the virality sit, because that word of mouth is the last bastion of trust. Not the last. It's one of the value of referral, the value of that trust is so high, because the with AI, with low cost marketers, there's the volume of advertising pounding most people's eyeballs and brains every single day is so high that even if you scrolled past the greatest solution in the world for yourself, you might just scroll on by. But if Prosper says to you, hey, this is great, you should go check it out, now it sits way different spot than just seeing a regular advert. So it's actually about, so going back to buyer-centric selling is actually buyer-centric marketing as well. Why should my customer care about this? Why should I put this content out? Is this content going to pass the sniff test of, is it actually share worthy? So each business model, you think about the businesses that have really scaled in the last 10 years, they almost have baked deep into the model how they're going to be shared. The two big Australians that we talk about all the time is, of course, Atlassian and Canva. Like, those people get trotted out every time we talk about a successful Australian business. Well, Jira, their product, was a perfect example, and they've bought Trello and they've got a whole bunch of other stuff, but they're perfect examples of how they've baked deep into the platform shareability. You've done some programming, you want to share it with somebody else. They go, I now create an Atlassian account, and boom, you've immediately created a second customer. Whilst they might be a free customer, they're now exposed to your ecosystem. They go, this is really good. And that was a bottom-up approach. The same bottom-up approach was Canva. They do a birthday card for your niece, whatever, and then they share it. It's shareable. So I know I'm sort of going off the reservation here, going on a bit of a rant here, mate, but if we can find ways to build that shareability into our organization, like deep, like as not an afterthought, as part of the core business model of shareability, then that's where you're going to get that 1 to 2 to 4 to 8, and that's when you're going to get that exponential growth.
Well, absolutely. We're supposed to be creating for and relating to our audiences in the first place, right? So if we're creating products that they absolutely love enough to stick their neck on the line for, that's when you've actually succeeded. Because I can't remember who it was that when we create products that people absolutely love, the marketing has already done itself there. You know what I mean? A lot of people go into the whole marketing realm because they haven't created a product that is worth sharing. And if we get to that position where we're really understanding our customer, we being buyer-centric, it's no longer about us. How can we help people by actually helping them? And I feel like that's the space that you're in. I mean, you've already created something remarkable. Now, you also have Tech Talk. That's that's something else there. What's that?
Yeah. Well, Tech Talk is the brand on which everything operates. So Tech Talk is the so we do the sales and marketing and strategy all within under the umbrella of Tech Talk. So Tech Talk. And so the point of that is I like engines, I like cars, I've always have, and I like the visual or mental model of, how do we turbocharge things, where does rubber hit the road. There's lots of engineering and car based terms that you can apply to a business. You want to get traction, you want to get all of that sort of stuff. So it's essentially we've used that brand, Tech Talk brand, to underpin our positioning in the marketplace. Go, well, we're going to go out to SaaS businesses and software companies. We're going to help them sell more to the right people by bringing together the precision process. Because the best cars, the best engineering is about precision process. It's about making sure that there's an even flow all the way through the whole machine.
Matthew, I've got an unfair advantage here. I mean, I've known you from before, and you've introduced us to Italian cars. Now you're talking about torque and all the precision engineering and things like that. Now, I suppose that's the reason why Bali didn't work out for you, because things are a little bit slow there, aren't they?
I think the slowness, definitely the slowness and the weirdness. When I say weirdness, just things that would defy logic for somebody who grew up where I did, versus somebody who grew up over there. And I'll tell you one funny story one Bali story, and this might sort of demonstrate why I had a hard time. So I'm taking my son to swimming lessons. It's 3:30 in the afternoon. It's about 35 degrees. It's hot. Where we drive into the swimming lessons place, and it's a local place, lots of local people there, and we just knew that swim coach was quite a good one. So we show up, and of course it didn't hurt that there was $2 beers at the bar as well that I could have. I didn't drive, by the way. I had a driver, so just for the kids out there, don't drink and drive. So I didn't, and so and I could hear this sort of loud sort of sparking, ticking sort of sound and flashing. And I was walking towards the pool, and I look up and I had this moment of cognitive break. I just went, I can't really process what I'm looking at, because what I was looking at was where there was a scaffold in the pool, in the water, with kids swimming around the scaffolding. On top of the scaffolding was a guy in a puffer jacket, motorcycle helmet, jeans, thongs. And next to him was this TIG welder, and a welding TIG welder is a electric powered welding device, giant thing about
in a water body.
So he was on top of the scaffold. The scaffold was in the water, and there was electric cord running from that all the way down 3 different extension cords into the bar where you would order a beer, and it was plugged in next to the blender at the bar, literally. And he's welding on this while kids, and I went, this is everything about this is insanity.
Yeah.
There's nothing, I can't process any of this. And he's welding the roofs anyway. So that's an example of just, and nobody seemed concerned. I was talking to the Westerners there, and they go, oh, that's Bali, he'll be right. And the locals, and I said, is this okay? And, oh, this is fine. And yeah, we didn't do swimming lessons that day. I turned Sterling around, we left. But that was too weird for me.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. I remember driving in Bali, and there was this intersection that had, I would want to say, millions of telephone cables just dangling, and maybe hundreds of them had just been broken. Maybe some truck had just severed them in half. And then there's just a guy, exactly as you said, in flip-flops, just a bicycle helmet, and he's just wiring them all together, and he's holding some of them on his shoulder like that. And I'm like, the weight of that alone could just put him in a pendulum. And
yeah.
And I'm African, Matthew. I'm African, so you can imagine. But you've actually in this process been able to help 200 tech companies grow, and obviously that's a remarkable feat. What are some of the most common challenges that these companies face, or what's the Bali in them that you see whenever you walk in them?
Well, so mate, look, the biggest problem that my customers often has is that they're the smartest people in the room, and their engineering prowess and their capability is what has got them to where they are. And so they can think logically, they can see a problem that other people can't really see very well. They can articulate that problem, they can program around that problem and solve that problem really elegantly. I know that doesn't sound like a problem, but the thing is, when they go into a sales situation, we're no longer dealing with the ones and zeros of an engineering problem where it is just a logical process through the machinery and then you can outcome with the answer. The problem is you're dealing with humans, and humans are not logical. Humans are emotional. Humans have their own biases, and they have their own needs and wants and desires. So, for example, if I'm ever trying to help somebody sell to a giant corporation or a government department, I actually ask them to stop talking about how that product is better or faster or cheaper. Better, faster, or cheaper is somewhat irrelevant. I mean, and this is why when we see on the news that the cross-city tunnel has cost $500 million, or they talk about the NASA screwdriver that cost $25,000. It's only, so it's not about better, faster, cheaper. What it is, it's about making sure that it ticks all the right boxes when it comes to the job, their promotional possibility, when it says to the job, making no decision is often is a good decision, because there's no risk in making no decision. So even though you might present something to a giant corporation and say, this is a better, faster, cheaper answer, they're not personally motivated. It's not their money. It's not their remit. They care. Logically, they care, but emotionally they go, well, why would I go through the pain of implementing a new solution when the current solution is fine? And if it stays fine and I go get my next job, then that's not my problem. So you've got to think about the psychographic. So who is the person you're dealing with, and what's their goal? How do they get measured? How do they figure out the best way to move through the world? And funnily enough, I figured out a really great way, and you can steal this, please steal it. I don't believe there's any real IP in the world left. It's just execution. And so I get paid for execution. I don't get paid for ideas. But the best idea that I ever came up with was to figure out how to actually profile those people individually, those people in that role. And what you do is you go to Seek and you look up that role for a business like that, and that Seek ad will tell you exactly their education level, what they're measured on, how they write, how they think. The Seek advert often will give you absolutely everything you need to know about a particular role if you're selling into that role in an organization. And then, of course, your content needs to talk to solving those problems that person has. So I don't know what the question was that motivated that long ass answer, but sorry. Well. But yeah, so anyway, I thought that was really interesting to think about the person you're selling to, not the organization, and the motivation of that person and why they should care about your product.
Absolutely, because a lot of people there's that statement that you will never be fired if you buy from Telstra. So
Yep.
there's that now works into what you're saying, because so many people are obviously looking after numero uno, and will this make me look good? Will this look good on my review? Will this
Yep.
give me a promotion, or will this give me a seat at the table? And I think if you actually go in that way of looking at their, the seek profile, that actually makes life a whole lot easier for you to then, obviously, there's tools these days that you just say, hey, can you tell me what a person like this can, what carrot do I dangle to this type of person? But
Yep.
talking about carrot and stick, a lot of businesses are just using a lot of stick, instead of bringing the actual carrot. And I think what you're saying is the buyer's journey has completely changed, from what
Look,
you're
it's
saying.
completely changed.
Right, right.
Absolutely, mate. So when I started selling 25 years ago, probably a bit longer now, 30 years ago, it was sales heavy, because marketing really existed for the very, very large organizations who could afford Ogilvy Mather and could afford those big marketing firms. And then there's a lot of gap between newspaper and TV advertising and direct response marketing, which was the back of the newspaper or even telemarketing. So the onus for most businesses was mostly on the sales side, where you could hire a person, get out there and knock on some doors and make a few phone calls and generate some interest. And even with just a weak brochure, not a weak brochure, a regular brochure, they could go, well, I've got a brochure, it's been printed, I sort of trust it, the person's nice, I'm going to buy it. Today, I reckon you've got to have, I think Daniel Priestley says about 7 hours worth of content out there at least. And you've just got to, and somebody will, if you connect with somebody on LinkedIn and they aren't putting stuff up on LinkedIn, they can look at your profile and go, oh, this is an abandoned house. And that term I got from Julie Mason, who's an amazing LinkedIn lady. So we give credit where credit is due. And so in looking at that, you've got to make sure that it all aligns. If you say that you're a professional organization, whether you're a tree lopper or a tech company, you've got to have stuff out there that says you actually can do your job. If you're a tree lopper, it's Google reviews, right? If you're a tech company, it's also probably Google reviews, but also other referrals, other ways of providing that social proof. So marketing and social proof are now so intertwined that it absolutely makes no sense that you're not bringing marketing more and more to the front. You're putting more and more content out there, because just the table stakes, the basics of doing marketing these days has risen so much. The problem is, though, that AI is out there, so the volume of marketing is now greater as well. The quality has dropped unless they're employing professional organizations like yours or mine. They go out there and they put into ChatGPT, write me a letter or write me a website, write me a landing page, whatever it is, and it says. It opens with, in today's fast-paced world, or today's fast-paced world is a dead giveaway that it's an AI sentence. So it's challenging, but if you really care about your customer, bringing it all the way back to the beginning of this conversation about buyer-centric, if you actually care about your customer and you sit down and think deeply about what they care about and try to put yourself in their shoes, then the marketing will take care of itself. Your product will take care of itself, simply because you'll be then drawn towards that North Star of success for your client. And that's what's going to give you the financial and I guess emotional success as well.
I like that, Matthew. And for those that are watching this and sitting at the edge of their seat, just waiting for that opportunity, how can people start working with you?
Well, so first of all, as I said, we work with software and technology businesses. Look, I've worked with real estate and retail, but that's not my area of expertise, and I choose my clients really clearly. So as I said, people, my best clients are ones that have got a great product, they can deliver on it, they have a really clear understanding of how to deliver value. The challenge for them is it's often that front end of the part of the business. So we look after strategy, sales, and marketing. techtalk.com.au, of course, socials. Find me on LinkedIn. Join with me, find me on LinkedIn and send me a message. I respond to every single person. And also, as the other thing, Prosper, is when it comes to marketing, it's not just your brand and your words, and it's actually what you do. So if somebody wants to have a conversation with you or me or your business or the people watching business, they want to be available. Because if you don't prioritize that sale, they know deep down they're definitely not going to be prioritized as once they're a customer. Because the sale is pre-money, customers post-money. So everything you do pre-sale needs to be absolutely at 100% worth of value.
Absolutely, because how you do anything is how you do everything. You know what I mean? Like if you're not going to be looking after this part, or like you said, an abandoned house, how are you going to be able to look after my house if yours is in disarray? So people,
Correct.
everything matters. Like you said, there
Yep.
has to be some sort of a runway that people have to run on for them to be able to then be able to see the aspirational side of the brand that you're building and things of that nature. But Matthew, man,
Absolutely, mate.
I mean,
There's so many
obviously,
options out there. Sorry, go on.
that's all right. I mean, obviously, it's taken us 5 years to obviously catch up, and hopefully, the next time, it won't be that long because obviously you're
Yeah, mate.
full of stories and things of that nature. But for those that are meeting you for the very first time, what's next? What can people anticipate in the future now that they've, cotton on to what you're doing? What can they anticipate that you're working on? That's that they can, yeah.
Well, what we're working on? Well, obviously, not obviously. I'm thinking so there's a couple of things I'm thinking about right now. First of all, how do I, and this is also a challenge for the people out there who are listening, is how do you create higher levels of personalization at scale in your outreach and your marketing? So that's the first thing I'm thinking about. The second thing I'm thinking about is how do I create a suite of products for my existing clients and potential new ones that's going to genuinely add value that we can bake in and share that. The third thing I'm working on is is my own podcast. So I may have learned from masters like yourself who did the podcast ages ago, and you continue to do that, or the TV show. So we're now doing the CEO and the Salesman podcast, where I'm the salesman and I interview technology CEOs about their journey, what they're being challenged by, how they grow their team, and how they scale. I've spoken to people who are experts in the 0 to 1 space, the technology piece that. How do I go from idea to my first dollar or first cohort of clients? Had some really great conversation with him just a couple of days ago. A couple of weeks ago, I spoke with a person who'd started an organization, listed on the stock market, grew it substantially, then exited, and now they help other businesses do the same thing. Some genuinely fascinating conversations with some tech people here in Australia. Loving that. Getting some attention overseas now, so I might be on some American podcasts as well. So I'm a podcast host and also being interviewed by people like yourself. So there's that. And of course, if you're a tech business and you want to sell more to the right people, then hit me up.
Absolutely, I quite like it. I mean, I just really believe in life, Matthew. We're here to live, to learn, and to contribute. I mean, obviously, you've lived the life. You've done Bali, and also there's a stint of yours in the Himalayas, and then you learn the lessons off of that. And then when you have arrived, you send the elevator down so that others can do and have a happier existence. And I think you've just done that for us today. And I can't thank you enough for the time that you've spent with us on the call. I mean, the value that you just brought in this short amount of time, I think whoever is watching right now would just want to continue. And that's the reason why I'm going to put all those links in the show notes below so that people can go onto your podcast and listen to what it is that you're creating for them, etc. As long as they're not the electrician from Bali that's busy trying to create swimming pools while your kid I mean, in the water.
Exactly. No, that's right. Well, mate, look, and also I do, and as I said, I give away all my best ideas, and so I do a webinar last Thursday of every month. I go live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and just talk about what I've learned and what I'm seeing working out there at the moment every single month. So so find me on LinkedIn. Happy to help. If you want to ask a question, please do so. Always happy to add my 2 cents worth in.
Absolutely. Those links are going to be in the show notes, and definitely connect with Matthew right there. And that's a wrap. What an incredible conversation, my man. I mean, it did take us 5 years, but hey, It's I really was excited to see you when I noticed you started your podcast and things of that nature, and now that you're doing this to help others be doing and have a business that's also profitable and enjoyable. So keep doing what you're doing, man. I know there's a lot of people that really need the kind of stuff that you're putting out there. All right. Now,
Thanks, mate.
for those that are watching right now, if you've been sitting on the sidelines just wondering how to actually scale your tech business, or just feeling like your sales process isn't cutting it, I think Matthew is the expert that you need to talk to. Like, he has elaborated, there's webinars, podcasts, and there's also content that he's putting out there that will help you, really become buyer-centric in your selling and things of that nature. And make sure you check out Tech Talk Systems and reach out to him directly. I'll be putting all those links in the show notes below. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to maybe rewatch it for all the golden nuggets that are in there, or send it to a tech founder that is, finding it difficult to really get their sales and marketing in check. I think Matthew will be the best person that they would be able to talk to. And don't forget to subscribe for more content that actually helps you build a business that's profitable and enjoyable. Until next time, stay prosperous. Bye for now.